Can you turn to your neighbor and tell them happy the first Thursday of May 2025? Amen. It's a wonderful day. It's supposed to be Labor Day. I know most of us wanted to sleep more, but at least we have sacrificed to come and at least listen to the word of God. Thank you so much. I'll request our AMO leader, Brother Atemo, to stand up and greet us on behalf of all the men.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you. And Elder Bago to greet us on behalf of all the elders. Thank you so much. We are privileged to have with us Pastor Philip Guy, who comes to us all the way from Kindu Adventist Hospital. And the Lord has brought him here these few days, these few hours to minister to us. Can I see those of us who are welcoming him to share with us the word of God? Archbishop Mekaribishwa, feel free.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so delighted. I consider it a great honor and a privilege to be invited to serve. It is long since I was last in this particular church. I obviously got lost with the changes in the roads, but I'm also impressed to see several changes in this church when I was last here. I think a lot of construction was still going on, and I praise God for the efforts that you have made as God's wonderful people, and may God bless you. I just want to do my little bit of background check. How many are meeting Pastor Guy for the very first time? You have never interacted with Pastor Guy. You've only been heard about him. Oh, thank you, thank you. Praise God. I am glad to meet new friends. And I believe that we will be friends forever. We are discussing in the next couple of days about a wonderful theme that was given to me, building a legacy, shaping the future. I also was given a key text based on Proverbs 13 verse 22. I'll stick to the first part of that text and never touch the second part for the next couple of days. For the first part of the text says, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And for the next couple of days, I'll stick to that and not go to the second part, though I do know that the writer of Proverbs is using what is called Hebrew parallelism, and in Hebrew parallelism, the first part of the text is always related to the second part of the text, either conversely or similarly, but I'll limit myself to this first part. My discourse this morning is not going to be homiletical, it's going to be pedagogical, in the sense that I'm not going to preach, but I'm going to teach. I, in my growing up, did not intend to be a preacher. I intended to be a teacher. My mother was a teacher, and she inspired me a lot, and I really wanted to take after her. But fate had it that I had to cross over this way. Nevertheless, I've had teaching opportunities. And for this reason, I just want to request that I have my class come somewhere close to me so that I have what they call classroom control. So if you are on the fringes, let's move a little bit closer here so that we are able to, connect even as we talk. I must confess from the very beginning that I have had a struggle with the theme and with the text. And much of what I'm going to say will perhaps be philosophical or contradictory. And what I'm going to say this morning will be building on what I'm going to say tomorrow and what I'm going to say the other day. So if I contradict myself, know that it's purposeful, it's normal, it's intentional. Let me say, just as I have said, I've had a problem with this text, building a legacy, shaping the future. And also with the text, a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. I belong to the school of thought that parents should not leave wealth to their children. That's the school of thought where I come from. You don't buy a car for your child. You don't buy a plot for your child. You don't build a house for your child. That's the school of thought where I come from. But as I delved into this text, I also found it interesting. If you notice very clearly, the Bible verse does not say, Father, build an inheritance for your children. It only talks of building for your children's children, that is your grandchildren. Why did the biblical author skip the child and go to the grandchild? Now that's food for thought. Think about that. Today I'm going to be speaking more about wealth, and actually my topic for now is hard work or work hard, whichever way you'd want to place it. That's what I'm going to be talking about in the next few minutes. It's just going to be about working hard. Let me begin by asking the question, what is legacy? When you talk about building a legacy, what is legacy? I looked up into the dictionary, and the first one when I opened my computer confused me. It was Oxford that came first, and it says, an amount of money or property left to someone in a will. And I was struggling because I knew at the back of my mind, I am not going to Nairobi East to tell them to leave money for their children. But here is my dictionary telling me an amount of money or property left to someone in a will. So obviously, the first dictionary text is contradicting my preconceived notion or thought pattern that I want to share with Nairobi East. But in the same Oxford dictionary, the second explanation goes like this: the long-lasting impact of particular events and action. I mean, it describes a legacy as the long-lasting impact of particular events and actions. There, I felt so good. This is what I want to share with Nairobi East. So that at the end of the day, what you are going to transfer over to your children and your children's children is the impact of particular events and actions in your life that will impact them for posterity. So it says the long-lasting impact of particular events and actions that took place in the past or in a person's life. That's exactly what I would foresee you passing on to your children. Events that have taken place in your life. Events, actions that you've had to interact with in the course of your life. That's the legacy that I see you passing on to your children and children's children. Not the first one, money or property left in a will. But when the first dictionary confused me, I had to go to several others. I checked on Cambridge, and I also checked on Merriam-Webster, and this is what Cambridge says: money or property that you receive from someone after they die. Merriam-Webster says a legacy is a gift of money or other personal property that is granted by the terms of a will. So no matter how much I was trying to run away from money, money kept on coming in to the picture. And so that's why I told you at the onset that I'm going to be really self-contradictory a lot. I know leaving a legacy for your children or your children's children involves passing down not only material wealth, but also values, stories, memories that will shape their lives. And that's the most important thing that I wish that we delve into in the next 3 days or so. And passing this legacy, it's often something that is intentional. It must be based on some intentional communication, and it must be based on shared experiences. That's why today we talk about mentorship. Older men mentoring younger men, fathers mentoring their sons. It's about shared experiences. It's about walking the road together. And so what we'll have to agree on at the onset is that in as much as I'm trying to run away from money, but I will not run away from it, leaving a legacy is about more than money. Yes, money may be there, but it's more than money or material possession. Legacy can be the sum of what our lives have taught us and how we make others feel about themselves. I repeat that. A legacy can be some of what our lives have taught us and how we make others feel about themselves. How do you make others feel about themselves? That's a kind of legacy that I want you to see yourself passing to the future generation. It's about passing certain desirable values in life. It's about virtues that you stand for and that you'd like to see passed on to the next generation. Yes, there is money, but it's not just about money. And so for the next few minutes for today, I've tried to ignore money, but I'm failing to ignore it. Let me revolve around money. And now I'll go back to Genesis chapter 2, where it all begins. Remember, my topic is just about hard work or work hard. If there is something like that, that's the legacy I want you to pass on today to the next generation. Genesis chapter 2, I'll have several verses to read, and I'll just move over them very fast. Genesis chapter 2 and verse 15, the word of God says, "The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it." God created Adam, the man, and put him into in the Garden of Eden to work and take care of the garden. In Protestant work ethics, we see work as something that is noble. I wish this is something that we could impart to our children as a legacy, that they have to work and soil their hands by touching things physically and working. It's a shame that some of our young people see work as a punishment. It's a shame that some of our parents don't want to pass on the values of hard work to their sons and their younger brothers, siblings, and would want to pamper and just nurture them in a soft life, so that they don't see hard work as a virtue that they can embrace, but they see it like a punishment. Work was given to man not as a curse, but a blessing. Work was given to man before the fall, before sin came into the world. And that's why throughout the Bible, from Genesis, I flip over to the New Testament, the Bible encourages the values of hard work. This is the Apostle Paul in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. And the Apostle Paul says in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, and I'll read from verse 12 going down to verse 14. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 12 to verse 14, the word of God says, Now we ask you, brothers, respect those who work hard among you, who are over you in the Lord and who admonish you. Hold them in high regard because of their work. Live in peace with each other. Now I'm interested in verse 14. Verse 14 says, and we urge you, brothers, warn those who are idle, encourage the timid, help the weak, be patient with everyone. My emphasis is warn those who are idle. Respect those who are hardworking. The Bible throughout encourages hard work and never opposes laziness. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3. Same Apostle Paul says in verse 10, 2 Thessalonians 3 verse 10, for even when we were with you, we gave this rule, if a man will not work, he shall not eat. If, I know sometimes portions of the Bible are taken figuratively, but if there is one that I believe must be taken literally and not figuratively, it is this one. If there is any man in Amo here, oh, it is not Amo anymore, it is MMM, AMM. If there is anyone among the AMM that does not work, he should not be given food. He should not physically eat. He has no reason to wash his hands and sit at the table and eat. Absolutely no reason. And even if your work is about sitting in the office and coming back after writing and signing papers, and you want to sit at the table and eat, I would say shame on you. For a man must touch physical work with his hands. Touch the soil. Feel the hard work. That's what makes you a man. You cannot sit at the table in the office and come back in the evening and sit at the table and work and say, I work hard. When I go to the office, I work very hard. No. The Bible upholds virtues of physical labor. And this is what Paul is talking about. The question has been asked, what is the secret of success? And the answer is clear, there is no secret of success. It is simply hard work. Now I know many of you are now enlightened, and that's why I said I'm going to be philosophical and self-contradictory. At a later time, that phrase now changes. It is not work hard, but it is work what? Smart. But I want to go to the foundation before I get you to working smart. Working smart, yes, it's okay, it's on the higher level. But it begins from hard work. If you do not embrace and you do not want to welcome hard work, I'm sorry, you do not belong. You do not belong. You are ostracized from the society. You are not within this group. You are in the wrong place. The very foundation of AMM is hard work. A few years ago, when I started working, I was on the other side of the world in Migori, and I was chosen to be in charge of personal ministry. And personal ministry involved Dorcas and AMO, back then as we call it, now AMM. And I don't know whether you've known that women are usually very active in church. Did you notice that? Super active. And in some situations, men are left behind. And so I watched as scenes were unveiling, and the women were active and doing things and going for Dorcas Federation, women ministry, and the men were laid back. But for those who raise their hands that they do not know me, I am one person who believes in hard work, and when you give me a task, I don't believe in being defeated. I say these men that have been placed in my hands will not be lazy. They will wake up and engage and do something for the Lord. And so I started waking up the men in Ranen field by that time. Now it's a conference and also subdivided. So I called men into congresses such as this. And the Adventist church likes slogans and slogans. And so we had to look for a slogan for men by that time. And right now there are many. What slogan are you using right now? I don't know. But back then, my first slogan was Adventist men, muscles of the church. Adventist men, muscles of the church. And we were going by that greeting, that we are the muscles of the church. Muscles of the church. But when you looked at the muscles, they were not there. And at one time, we had a convention with the men and the women together, and the women were, oh, Dorcas Society, love in action. Dorcas Society, love in action. And you could see the action. You could see the clothes. You could see the food. You could see their preaching. But the men were simply muscles of the church that were not flexing. And so the women looked at us. And they listened to us talking about muscles of the church. And they asked a question. Are you muscles of the church or missiles of the church? Now, that's again food for thought. Whether Nairobi East men are going to be the muscles or they are going to be the missiles. And I dare say that if you do not embrace hard work at this point, you are but nothing but missiles and not muscles. There is no virtue in laziness. The Bible upholds and will always uphold hard work. Let me go to Proverbs. I must now rush in the interest of time, but a bit systematically. Proverbs chapter 14, there are many, but I'm not going to read all of them. And Proverbs chapter 14, I'll go to verse 23. The word of God says, all hard work brings profit. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. All hard work brings a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. Let me go to Proverbs 26. I like this one. I do marriage counseling, especially for young couples, a few times for married couples. And all young couples who pass through my hands must internalize this particular passage. For I believe that even as you enter into marriage, you cannot enter into marriage in a spirit of laziness. And so Proverbs 26 is very important to me. I'll begin from verse 13 to verse 15. And I like the way the wise man puts it. Proverbs 26 verse 13. The sluggard, no, not that word, the sluggard says there is a lion in the road, a fierce lion roaming in the streets. As a door turns on its hinges, so a sluggard turns on his bed. The sluggard buries his hand in the dish and is too lazy to bring it to its mouth. How lazy can someone be? Everybody is waking up now, it's raining, everyone is going to plow their fields, but the guy is covering himself with more blankets and saying there is a lion outside. How does he even know there is a lion? He has not even gone out. An imaginary lion. For the sake of laziness. Just to keep himself warm a little longer because he does not want to work hard and make a little more money. And the Bible says not even that. The way a door turns on its hinges, says, let me now turn this side. And then after, let me now turn. It's already early morning. People are awake. The birds are chirping. But the lazy man, now, if this is your lot, you don't belong. You have no space even in the kingdom of God. That's why Paul says, if there is any such man here, please don't give them food. They don't deserve it. And he goes on to say, this man is too lazy that even food that someone else has served, he puts his hand down into the dish. And he wants somebody else to bring that food into his mouth. He cannot even bring it to his mouth. What more laziness can we experience than this? Let me tell you, brothers and sisters, there is no virtue in poverty. There is nothing good in poverty. A few years ago, no, it's many years now, I was in a church here in Embakasi, and one of the senior pastors had come to our church. He's now retired. And I was appointed to pray that day. Now, I think I was appointed to lead in the offering collections. And so, as the deacons and deaconesses had brought in the offerings, I prayed this prayer. I don't know what words I used, but it's a prayer that I found somewhere in the Proverbs. That's why I said some of my words will be very, very self-contradictory. Let's take them as they are and learn from them. That God help us not to be too rich so that we forget about you, not to be too poor so that we ignore you. Anyone has read that in the Bible? Yes, it's in the Bible. So I prayed something like that. And this no-nonsense pastor, he said, no, you cannot pray like that. Many of you know Pastor Kutondo. Did you know Pastor Kutondo? He did not give me breathing space. He says that's a wrong prayer. And I asked myself, what is this senior pastor? By that time, I was just a youth in church. But later on, I learned to align, after I read my Bible properly, that God has never purposed that any one of us here be poor. Not even a single person here ought to be poor. Yes, the Bible says the poor will always be among you, but not the men of Nairobi East. And I aligned myself with Pastor Kutondo that God should not bless people in poverty. He does not actually bless people in poverty. The Bible says in Proverbs, the rich rule over the poor. When you are a poor, you are a slave. There is nothing good about. In fact, there are some people who think that when you are poor, you are holy. You can now walk miserable, and people will look at you. You think you are more godly because there is nothing godly about being poor and looking lugubrious and miserable. There is no virtue in that. Read your Bible properly. I read it and I saw. When you look at Genesis 13 verse 1, the Bible talks about Abraham, about his wealth, and the word that is said there is Abraham was not only rich, the Bible says he was very rich. And I underscore the word very. And I'm now talking to men of Nairobi East. Can this be said of you? That so-and-so, an elder in Nairobi East, was very rich. In English, they call that filthy rich. I don't know what's filthy about it. I don't see anything filthy in being rich. But the Bible says Abraham was very rich. When you look at Isaac, his son, in Genesis 26, verse 13, go to verse 15, he says, he became rich. And there's no sin in a church member in Nairobi East being rich. Actually, the Bible gravitates towards encouraging people to acquire wealth. I like Job. Job 1, read verse 1 to 3. It talks about his spirituality. But the Bible also says that he was the greatest man in the East. He was actually the wealthiest man in the East. When they're looking for who owns Nairobi, is it possible that a member of Nairobi East could be found there? If they're looking for who owns Kisii, who owns Nyanza, who owns Western, could that name come from a member of Nairobi East? Or we belong to the class of those who still pray like I prayed some years back, that God bless those who have not given, God bless those who have given, and even those who have not given also bless them, that they may give another time. Why do you want God to bless those who have not given, that they may give another time? Why? What kind of prayer is that? My Bible tells me in Deuteronomy, chapter 28, you know very well, that you will be the head and not the tail. Why should Nairobi East Adventist men not claim the Bible promises of being the head and not the tail? Why? Why should we claim? Why should we be mediocre? Why should we be average? I don't believe that. I don't believe God has called us to mediocrity. I don't believe God has called us to be average. I believe that God has called each and every member of Nairobi East to be on top of whatever you're doing. Whether it's academics, you ought to be on top. Whether you're in transport sector, there's no one who should be above you in transport sector. Whether it's in agriculture, I strongly believe that there's no one that should be on top of you in whichever sector that God calls you into. And I purposely asked those who did not know me, because I don't only preach. Since my childhood, I've never believed in preaching water and drinking wine. What I am saying is exactly what I'm doing. And I've done many things in this church, and currently I'm the CEO of Kindu Adventist Hospital, and I picked it up about 3 years ago. And those who are following what's happening at Kindu Adventist Hospital, and I'll tell you, watch this space. In the next few years, you will not be talking about Nairobi Hospital. No, not Aga Khan, not Avenue. Watch what's going on at Kindu. And it's only 3 years, and the Lord has done great things, because I believe God has not called us and placed us somewhere to be average. No. It doesn't happen over my watch. And I believe it should not happen over your watch. Wherever you are working, can you be the best in your area? Even if you are a manamba, a tout in a bus here, can you be the best tout in Nairobi East? If you are a shoe shiner, can you be the best shoe shiner in Nairobi East? God has called us to be the head and not the tail. And that's exactly what I've come to talk to you about. I have to close, because we still have tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Let me tell you something. Some years back, when I was still doing those Adventist men things, I called a very good gentleman. He was called Dr. Nyantika. I called him to Ranen. I brought all the men there. And he was, have you been to, I don't know which churches you come from in the village. Now you're in Nairobi. But I don't know which churches you come from in the village. In the village where I come from, they have things called Dorkamo, where there is music festival. And after music festival, the men come and display their handwork, and the women also display their cookery and their knitting. Has anyone seen those things? Or has anyone seen? Let me see the hands of those who have seen those things. Or for some people, I know it doesn't happen everywhere. So I was in charge of those things. And I looked at what these people are doing. I said, this is nonsense. Even last week, we were having some festival in Migori, and they were displaying. And the church where I am a member, they did not do anything. They went to the shop, they bought ile mwiko, they bought ile kitu ya kufunika kuku, they bought a joke, they buy them and they come and display. The original idea was that men learn how to work and make these things. But today, it's a matter of competition, displaying the best and becoming number one. And there are people who are coming to mark. I looked at that and I said, under my leadership, this is nonsense. And I changed the syllabus. And I called professionals to come and teach people how to create wealth. And with Dr. Nyantika and many people from ASI, we taught people how to, keep chicken, how to plant trees, how to, tree nurseries. My brother here gave me a whole pack of seedlings. And I was going to teach men how to work with their hands and generate income. And I found a booklet in one of those teachings. Somebody from Kisii had published a very small pamphlet of collections. He says it was written, how to stop begging and start living. I looked at that. I said, none of my church members will be poor. I photocopied, he allowed me to photocopy that book and spread it among my church members. And I said, no single church member under my watch will be poor in the house of God. Because there is a plethora of knowledge on how to generate and create wealth. All we do is to banish laziness from the church. and make men to work with their hands, and riches will automatically follow you. It will just follow you. And those are some of those good days that I experienced. One of my uncles looked at me and says, Philip, there's a book I want you to read. I says, which book is this? He says, Think Big and Grow Rich. Is this by Napoleon Hill? He says, no, not that one. There's Think Big and Grow Rich, African American edition. I said, where can I find it? I came to all the bookshops in Nairobi. I could not find that book. Struggled, I could not find that book. Until one day, when I traveled to the US, I talked to my friend of mine and says, can you get for me that book? He got me the book, Think Big and Grow Rich. Now, that was 5 years after my uncle had died, who had told me to read this book. When I picked this book and devoured it from the beginning to the end, I now knew why my uncle had wanted me to read this book 10 years down the line. For I now know that none of you here was destined to be poor. God has purpose for you, great success. And this is just about the successful African Americans. You know, there is a thought that African brains, that the black brain cannot be rich, only whites can do it. But this guy, Kimbrough, dispels that notion. After some manuscripts that were written by Napoleon before he died, they brought an African American by the name Kimbrough to put it together. And this is just a masterpiece. Now, even if you give me 1 million shillings today, I'll not give you this book. Even if you make it 2, I will not give you this book. You have to look for it by yourself. This is a treasure. This is a gem. Even if you make it 10. Friends, we have talked. You have heard. They say in Latin, intelligent poker. What does that mean? A word to the wise is enough. What you've picked, you've picked. We'll build it up from there and see how it will end. May God bless you in Jesus' name. Amen. Shall we rise and pray together? Our gracious and loving Father in heaven, we want to thank you, dear Lord, for the most precious gift, the gift of life. We thank you, Lord, for the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. We thank you for the opportunity to gather here together as the men of Nairobi East. We know that this gathering is not in vain. You have a purpose, you have a reason for having called us together. I pray, dear Father, that through the power, through the influence of your Holy Spirit, may you touch our hearts, touch our brain cells, enable us to grasp that which you want us to grasp, and to discard that which is not important to us. And more than that, I pray that you'll give us the power to apply these things to our lives, that we may be the kind of men you'd want us to be for this church, and not only for the church, but for the society at large, and more so for the families that we represent. The world is looking up to us. Heaven is watching. I pray, Lord, take charge of each person's life here today. It's our prayer in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Good morning. And how are you? I've been asked to step in for Elder Wambia, who is our MC for the day. I think he should be making his way. But as he does, allow me to take this opportunity to welcome all of you and to really appreciate you for taking your time. As Pastor was speaking, I was also lost as to why the council picked on this particular theme, but I'm challenged that I need to be the richest man in the east of Nairobi. Job was the richest man in the land of Uz, is it? So I need to be the richest man in the east of Nairobi. Thank you so much, Pastor Guy, for those very good thoughts. I know time is fast spent. According to our program, we should be doing a 30 minutes of introduction where we are knowing each other. And the MM leader tells me, in the interest of time, we may need to skip that and go straight into the next session. And for those who have the program, the next session ties very well to the devotional thought that we've just had. Pastor has told us that God has destined us not for poverty, but for riches. The next session will address the how. I have worked in the financial sector. This is close to my second decade. And one of the things that I've done over time is to give loans. And one will tell you that loans are good. Without loans, you cannot go far. But somebody else will also tell you that loans can be a prison. And that is what our next presentation is going to be. Maybe by a show of hand, who amongst us does not have a loan? Zero debt. Zero debt. Zero. Kuna deni? Zero. 1, 0, 2. Zero debt. So in this congregation today, we have 2 brothers who are debt-free. Our speaker, you need to note this, that we have 2 brothers who are debt-free. And we need to celebrate them and thank God for them. The person speaking to you could be having the biggest debt portfolio. And I'm very keen to listen to this next presentation about debt management as a way of wealth creation. So speaking to us on this very important topic is our brother Roy Okonji. Roy is a life coach, and his life agenda is to inspire progressive change in society. He promises that we can do better. An outstanding financial literacy and business development coach, trainer, and author, strongly believes that everyone was created in a uniquely great way. And I think that is what Pastor has also talked about. With unique great potential in order to achieve unique greatness. He practically coaches, trains, and consults on financial literacy, business development, and other skills for individuals, families, businesses, and other organizations. He conducts one-on-one coaching sessions, including Debt Clinic, where he meets, listens, advises, and journeys together with those who need help in financial and other aspects of life. Mr. Ratemo, at this point, I request that you walk Roy upward to the pulpit. As I continue, Ratemo, are you here? Okay, if not, Philbert. Okay, Ratemo, do it. Walk him to the pulpit. He writes and publishes periodic inspirational articles. He is also published author of 7 titles: Relate Well, Live Well, Confronting Fear, You Can Do Better, Debt is Good Only If You Master It, Breaking Free from the Trap of Debt, Managing My Money, and Staying Financially Afloat. He's a regular panelist on various TV and radio shows discussing financial personal, family, and business development concerns. He is the founder, director of Focus Universal, a training, coaching, and consulting company. So, brethren, allow me to hand over this mic to the man who is going to speak to us, not only on how we can break the barrier of debts, but also how we are going to create wealth. Without further ado, Mr. Roy, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you. Okay, I've been asked to put up a minute. As he puts up, thank you for those who are coming in. Welcome. Allow me say that when the AMM Council was putting this, we asked ourselves, is it a men's AMM Sabbath? Or do we do something better? The idea to come up with a conference on a public holiday was met out of the need for us to stretch our imaginations around matters of wealth, financial management, because I know, starting with myself, I want to grow, and as I've said, I want to be the richest man in Eastlands. And for that to happen, then my imagination needs to be stretched a bit. And I want to believe that also resonates with many men here. Number two, somebody said, if you look around your community, what do you see? I see men who are responsible for bringing up their families, struggle to do so, and when they do, whenever things don't work, it is men you find in prisons. Today, if you take the population of people in prison, you will find that majority of the people in prison are men. Number two, regardless of how successful at times men are, there are things that we've not managed very well as men. I've seen business executives in top organizations commit suicide. Is it true? One of the leading universities in Nairobi, and that is the Strathmore University, lost in 2022, they lost around 6 boys to suicide. And none of those 6 students to suicide, and none of them was girls. They also say that the rate, my brother, are you ready? Okay. The rate of school dropout, even at a premium university like Strathmore, is very high, and those who drop out of school are boys in school. So we thought we needed a conference, not only to learn about matters financial or finances, but also to learn how to cope with so many distressing experiences that men are going through. So allow me then hand it over to our speaker so that we overcome this issue of debt and wealth creation. Brother Roy, most welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning. Tuko sawa? Very good. Thank you so much, the leadership of this church, for the opportunity to be part of your life story today. I do not take it for granted. Like introduced, Roy Okonji remains my name. The world calls me Coach Roy Okonji, a financial literacy and business development coach. I'm also a believer, and I fellowship at the Anglican Church of Kenya.
St. Gertrude Parish in Kasarani, where I also serve in different capacities. And when I had or got this invitation, I got excited, and I like saying, everywhere I meet men gathering, it gives me joy, because when men gather, we begin to get solutions. Things begin to go wrong when we are scattered, when each one of us is doing their own thing, when we are not listening to stories from other men, when we are not listening to what is happening in the worlds of other men. And therefore, I'm so delighted to be here, and I thank God so much for that opportunity. I also happen to lead the men in our church, and therefore, every time we get a gathering, like I said, it gives me a lot of joy, and I'm happy to be here. Now, when I was invited, I was given two things to handle, and one of them was wealth creation, which is a very huge topic, but I will try to simplify it and try to say as many things about it as possible. And the other one was debt management, and they were very specific about the trap of debt. I do not know whether that means anything, but looking at those two things and the way I usually do my presentation, I decided to start with the positive, and that is wealth creation. Then I will, the second part of the conversation, look at personal debt management briefly, which is also another very huge conversation. Both these conversations are very close to my heart. I love talking about money quite a lot, not because I have all the money under the sun. I wish I did. Not because I know everything in the world of money. I'm still learning, just that I love sharing that which I learn. I need to give a disclaimer as early as now that in the course of my presentation, I may pinch you, nitakuchuna kidogo, not once, not twice. If you feel me pinching you, don't take it personal. Take it as a wake-up call. Sawa sawa? Tuko tayari for a realistic conversation? I always promise my clients three things. One is that I will make it simple. And therefore, I'm not here to do any jargon. I'm not here to complicate these matters. I'm here to break them down to a level where each one of us can be able to interact with them. Number two, I promise that whatever I will say will be relatable. It's something you can relate with. It's something you can see yourself in or your neighbor in. And number three is something that can be applicable. Now, one of the major reasons why I love talking about money is because of my past experiences in the world of money. I have lived in this economy, and I'm saying this because I remember some years back, I was invited to speak somewhere, and recently I made a story on YouTube when someone asked me whether I've ever encountered challenges as a public speaker that are very frustrating. And I shared some of those, and one of them was similar to what I want to mention. One day I was invited to speak to a group of people like yourselves about money. And just before I picked the microphone, there is a participant who lifted his hand, and he said, "Before you start, I hope you are not a rich kid. I hope you were not born into wealth. I hope you have never made financial I hope you have made financial mistakes. I hope you are not bringing us textbook knowledge." And I told him to relax. And then, before I started, I mentioned what I want to mention to you. That I'm not one of those that he cautioned me, that he hoped I was not. I wasn't. I have lived in this economy. I have made my fair share of blunders that I wish none of you will make. For the avoidance of doubt, I am still the only award-winning borrower this side of the universe. I hold a very expensive trophy that was given to me by one of my Shylocks. You guys know Shylocks? You know them? Oh, okay. So I leave it to you to imagine how much business I had done with them for them to decide to use business money to buy an expensive award to give me, recognizing me for being the most trustworthy borrower and for continued business. I leave it to your imagination. But the day I received that trophy, that was the day my eyes opened. That was the day, instead of being happy that I've been recognized, that was the day I almost shed tears, asking myself, how did I get here? How did I get so messed up? And that was the time I started to reflect on my life. That trophy marked my turning point. I looked at that trophy and I placed it on my desk. I was still employed then. I'm a former banker. And I told myself, may this trophy remind me of the journey ahead of me, of the battle I need to engage in for me to regain my sanity financially. My colleagues did not know what that trophy meant. They thought I was given by my employer. And I kept it my own secret as I began my journey. They came to learn about it the day KTN came to cover my story. Again, I leave it to you to imagine what kind of mess this was that would attract a full media house to put together crew to come for the story. The story has been covered by all mainstream media houses in this country multiple times. That day I received the trophy is the day I went home. I sat down and I started reflecting on how deeply messed up I was. And I started writing the list of the people I owed money. And that's when I discovered that I was owing a multitude of people. Did you hear me say many people? I say a multitude. There were more than many people. Because it's in the public domain, I will tell you, I was owing not 5, not 10, not 20, not 30, not 40, not 50, not 60, not 70. True story. I was owing a record 86 lenders. Yes, I like the look on your faces. I mentioned this number on purpose because I have seen what God has used that number to do in the lives of people. I have received a lot of feedback from people saying, it was good you mentioned that number because I was on the verge of giving up. But when you mentioned that number, I realized I was joking. It's very disheartening that very many men, particularly, like our brother mentioned here, are going the route of suicide. My phone is full of messages of men who write to confess that they are tired, that their financial struggles have gotten them to a level where they feel they cannot pull anymore. They're giving up. Unfortunately, some of them succeed. Some of them, the Lord is able to intervene in His own ways, and they're able to retain their sanity. So when I was quitting banking to come and form my business around my gift, after I discovered the gift that God had given me, the gift of speaking, I had not known how serious this business is going to be. And in the fullness of time, the business converted from a normal business to a ministerial business because of the things that I've seen God do through the words that we have been sharing. So that is where I'm coming from. So if you find me very passionate about this conversation, just understand it's because I wouldn't wish what I went through any of you to go through. It was not a very easy place to be. Those of you that have been in debt, and especially debt that is bad debt that is traumatizing, debt that is disturbing you, debt that you're struggling to pay, if you've been there, you will understand what it means to owe 86 people and default on all of them. So So once again I ask, are you ready for a realistic conversation? Because I don't know how to sugarcoat these things. We will put them the way we are supposed to put them, so that we can be able to sharpen one another, isn't it? All right? One of the worst experiences I got, by the way, the class already started. If you expect, I will say now let's start definition. We are not defining anything. The class already started. I just came for us to do stories, trigger each other's thoughts, so that as men, as we perform our leadership role in our families, we are able to be triggered to think in a way that is progressive. One day, I was in Western Kenya, and I received a call in the morning. And this call was coming from a man. And the guy told me that I've been watching something on TV about your story, and they shared your number. On this particular day, there is a show that we had done long time ago that was re-aired. I was not notified when it was being re-aired. So when my contact was shared, calls started coming. So this gentleman tells me, I'm not calling you so that you can help me or so that you can stop me from what I've decided to do. But I'm just calling you so that you can be the last person I'm talking to, just because my story resonates with yours. I say, okay, because I don't know what this guy wants to say. Then the guy goes straight to the point. The guy tells me, I am a police officer based in Meru. As I speak to you, I have written my suicide note. I have my gun in my hands, very well cocked. After this call, I execute. I don't know what you would have done if you were in my shoes. You see, I'm not even in Meru where I can tell him, boss, nipatie dakika kidogo tu nitakuwa hapo. And even if I was in Meru, what would I have done? You know, with someone who has decided to do whatever they want to do. So that time I began to pray, and I'm telling God, just show me how to deal with this man. I don't know, because he's just calling. He can disconnect anytime. And God gave me some way, and I started to engage him in some story. And I tell him, boss, thank you very much for deciding that I'll be the last person you'll speak to before you go. And I respect your decision. But before you go, would you be kind enough to just tell me part of what has gotten you to where you are? Because you've decided to talk to me. So the guy agreed. He started giving me his story of how he has struggled financially and a lot of things that come with that struggle. We will look at them when I'm trying to dissect the conversation of debt and the trap of debt. His airtime went out. I called him. We spoke for more than 1 hour. So he gave me his story, and when he was done, I told him, thank you very much for sharing your story with me. Before you go, would you also be kind enough to allow me just a few minutes to also share with you a portion of my story that was not aired? What you watched was edited. We had, strict timelines to observe. And the guy said yes. So I also shared with him portions of my story that were not in that show. And all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to see if I can calm him down through this conversation. And I forever thank God that at the time I was done with my story, this is what he said. He said, boss, nikikuja Nairobi nitakutafuta. I thank God for his life. He's still a very close friend of mine. And such are some of the stories I come across every other day. And majority of them happen because we are not talking. So today we have a chance to talk, isn't it? And talking we will do for the few minutes that God will put us together. So, building personal wealth. The reason I'm starting this way is because I know when we will do the conversation on the trap of debt, I almost want to assure you that the mood will change. So I didn't want to start with that conversation to change the mood and affect what I want to talk about here. That's why I want to start with this one, and then we can change our moods, isn't it? Very good. Now, this is a huge conversation, like I said, and I will try to touch on these areas. I'll talk about realities of money briefly. I'll talk about wealth creation, now the process. I'll give you a few savings and investment tips, and then we'll talk about hindrances to wealth creation. I loved what my predecessor on this stage was sharing. I listened to the last few words, and I said, yes, you guys have been impacted. If you'll not put into practice, I don't know which portions I missed, but I imagined that there are portions that have been shared before I came in, that if they are to be put into practice, then we can begin to move to the next level. And I don't know what next level means to you. Look at the picture on the wall. We have a gentleman speaking to his salary, speaking to his income. I don't know, by a show of hands, how many of us are employed? How many of us are in employment? All right, very good. How many of us are in business? Business is our number one. Right, very nice. That's a good mix. How many of us are trusting God for something? Very good. Thank you. That's a very good mix. Now, that gentleman is speaking to his income. And the guy is asking his salary. And if you're a business person, you are asking your business income. You salary, why are you not growing up? All your friends are now grown-ups. And who are the friends of your salary? The price of fuel, the price of bread, the price of unga, the price of cooking oil, and all the other things you spend your money on. By the way, have you ever had this conversation with your salary, your income? We all do this, isn't it? We have done this. We may not have used these words, but at some point you have wondered why the cost of things is going up without consulting you. Have you ever wondered? You were talking to your income, but I like asking people, is it possible there was once a time when Mr. Salary, Mr. Income, in your case, was taller than his peers? Is it possible there was once a time like that? Even if it was one day. All right, a good number are saying yes. Is it also possible that there was a time when Mr. Salary was the same height as his peers? That you are able to run your life without necessarily borrowing for consumption? Is it possible? It is possible. The next question I ask is, where did the rain start beating us? Where did we go wrong? What do you think? What happened? By the way, we will have a conversation. I'm not a keynote address as a speaker today. So I am a walking teacher, so I will be walking. Yes? Yes, sir. When marriage came in. Fantastic. Yes? When marriage came in. And this reason is valid. You realize your economy takes a different turn when marriage comes in. Isn't it? Yes? What else? When Kasongo decided, all right? Whatever that means. Yes? There was a hand there. Oh, he has spoken for you. Very nice. Yes? When you started living beyond, I like that one. When he started living beyond his means. You know, very few of us can say that. When I started living beyond my means. Yes? Yes, please. Sorry? Very good question. What is beyond your means? You're the one who started living beyond your means. Oh, so he started having expenses beyond what he could handle. That is what he's trying to say, all right? Yes, please answer. You are over borrowing to sustain your lifestyle. All right, all these answers are correct. Yes? When did the rain start beating us? Yes, sir? Yes.
But from what you have told us, that there's a time that your income was above your means.
Yes.
And maybe equal and now less. So you see, as you are up there, then the income has come down.
Yes.
you cannot just drop instantly because
Yes.
there are commitments. You have children and school and other things.
Yes.
So definitely you'll have to live for some time
Yeah.
beyond your means because your salary, which you are having, or your income by
Yes.
that time, took you up there, and for you to come, if you come instantly, you will break down.
You will crash.
So you have to adjust. So thank you.
Underline the word for some time. That word carries a lot of weight. For some time. So you've in a way answered your question. All right, thank you. Yes? Things went wrong the day we started borrowing more than we could pay. All right. Yes, last one. When you bow to the pressure of belonging. Fantastic. Now, it is very easy for many people, for many of us here, when I ask that question, for us to look at all other reasons apart from reasons that are related to us. Sometimes in some classes when I ask, almost in unison, I get the answer, Kasongo, the state of the economy and all that. It is true. The state of the economy will affect each one of us, isn't it? But it is also true that while we point our fingers in the direction of the economy, some of us have not addressed our own house. And you see, we have a lot of control over our house before we have control over the economy. Are we saying something? That before you point your finger in the direction of the economy, have you allowed your current money, the way it is, to do the most it can do for you? Sawa sawa. Good. I like the reflection. Now, we have other pictures on the wall. There was a time in this country, and a good number of you were present, when if you went to a supermarket with 2,000 shillings, you would fill the first trolley. You know that trolley that we push? There was a time in this country, I know some of you are wondering how, if possible that was, if that was possible. But there was a time you went to a supermarket with 2,000 bob and it would fill that trophy. How many years ago? Yes? Uchumi supermarket. You even remember the supermarket. About how many years ago? Maybe between 15, 20? All right, that's the answer I'm beginning to get. Then we moved to a season where the same 2,000 bob in the same supermarket would only fill the basket in the middle. Now, that one you have experienced, isn't it? About how many years ago? 5 to 10, all right, something like that. Then we moved into another era where we are now, where you go to the supermarket and you have seen it, and you buy your things with 2,000 bob. When you get to the cashier, anakuuliza, niweke mfuko. What do you say? It looks like we were all cut from the same cloth. What am I saying? I am saying this. Any amount of money today is better than that same amount of money years to come. If you are going to hold money and the money is not doing anything to generate any other value, then that money will not have the power it has today in future. And therefore, if you are sitting on any money right now, and it has just been sitting somewhere doing nothing, I hope you're beginning to talk to yourself. Allow me to throw that careless statement there, that you and I were never created to just pay bills and die. Life is bigger than the payment of bills. Unfortunately, very many men live for the payment of bills. We wake up early in the morning, we go to work, we pay bills, we wake up again, we go to work, pay some more bills, and we get to a point where the bills are even bigger than we can pay. But we keep running to pay bills. Nothing wrong with payment of bills, but life is bigger than that. If you want to know that life is bigger than the payment of bills, Let me give you a scenario. There are times in your life, wherever it is you conduct the business of your life from, you've had situations, needy situations. Maybe it was in the news. You heard of someone who passed exams with flying colors, did not have school fees to join Form 1. Something in you has said, I wish I had money. Have you ever been there? So are you beginning to see your life is bigger than bills? Something in us is yearning for another thing beyond the payment of bills, just that the pocket cannot support. Now, sometimes we also hear of people going for vacation. You've heard people going for holiday, isn't it? Long time ago, I used to think that that thing was something reserved for people of a very different, let me call it class. And it's one of those things I would not even consider. But I was left wondering, hey, I wish one day I would also be able to go on vacation. 2 years ago, I took a group of men for a retreat to Mombasa. Periodically, I organize for such. That group got me thinking. It was the best mix I have ever found for men. That group had the youngest man as 25 years old and the oldest man as 81 years old. You can imagine how our conversations were interesting. But now, this is what caught my attention. There were men who have grown, lived, worked, retired, 70 years plus, who had never seen a train, who had never known where Mombasa was. They've heard about Mombasa. They've heard about the good things that happen there. And there are very many of us who, when we ask where Mombasa is, you don't know whether to point down here or there or up there. But something in you feels that if you had money, you would have loved to know where it is, isn't it? So we are in agreement that life is bigger than the payment of bills. Are we saying something? Okay, now let's get to the realities of money. What are realities of money? When I started learning about money, I took time to observe a lot of people, but first I observed myself. And I began wondering, how did I get so messed up? And it is true, at the same time when I was being messed up, there was another man somewhere who was succeeding financially. And I took time to study our behavior with money. And I realized that every one of us handles their money differently based on how we think about money, based on the software that we have about money, based on the mindset that we have about money. And yes, each one of us has a mindset about everything. We have a way of thinking about marriage. Have you ever met a man, when you want to talk about marriage, they will tell you, maneno ya ndoa wachana nayo. That is their way of thinking around marriage. So we have a way of thinking around money. Unfortunately, for many people, our way of thinking around money has been informed by dead principles. We pick how we think about money from many things. One of it is our upbringing. You know the things you used to see your parents do, your guardians do, your parents say. If you're brought up by parents who used to cry every day that hakuna pesa, chances are very high that if we dissected your life today, until you decide that, hey, this path is not taking me in a good direction, we will find you still crying, hakuna pesa. If you're brought up by parents who used to say, kula tano, weka tano, chances are high, when you start getting your money, those voices begin to remind you to kula tano and weka tano. So I don't know the voices you've been listening to. We also pick our mindset from knowledge, what we are learning. But you also agree that not everything we are learning is progressive. So it also depends with what you've been learning. And a lot of other factors. That's another conversation, a big one. So I came up with things I call realities of money, simple statements about money, to help us adjust a few things about how we think about money. You see, in this meeting, all of us look to be well collected. We look to be very well mannered. Hatuna story, tumenyenyekea, partly because we are in church, but partly because a serious conversation is happening. But if I were to decide to give each one of us some money, let's say some 5K to each one of us, just like that, maybe I want to vie for some seat, and because we believe the only way to get votes is through such ways, please, I will understand if our behavior begins to change. You realize right now, if we were to vote for the most collected group, we might carry the trophy. Unaona vile tunakaa wangwana? But now if I distributed that money, don't be surprised if someone will lift their hand and say, I'm very sorry, I had an emergency I need to address. Saizi hakuna emergency. Right now tuko sawa tu, there's no emergency. But the money coming to your hands reminds you of your emergencies. Because according to you, money is a resolver of emergencies, isn't it? So you will go. There is another person here who will pick the money, count the money is okay, put it in their pocket, ashike kalamu na karatasi. Let us carry on. There is another person who will pick the money, check around, realize chairman is around. If I leave, I might be asked why I left before the session was over. So the guy decides, sawa tu wacha nikae, but we lose him mentally. So the guy is not here. The body remains here. But the guy is very far away from here. Ameingia supermarket. Ananunua vitu na hiyo pesa nimempea. Na tuko hapa. The guy is seated here. But he's in the supermarket buying things. Amenunua, amemaliza kununua. He's even borrowing. Sijui nani ataniongeza punch. Mtu akiniongeza tu punch. But we are with him here. The realities are 7 of them. We don't have time for the 7. I think I'll share with us about 3 of them. But I think I've done a video again on YouTube on the same. The first reality is depicted by the picture on the wall. What are you able to see? A guy carrying a mountain. Let's leave it at that. You and I know, physically speaking, carrying a mountain is quite a task, isn't it? You need to be extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. And therefore we are saying that money is powerful. It's a basic statement. We all know that money is powerful, isn't it? Money is powerful. We know that. Probably some man here is wondering, hey, hani huyu jamaa amekuja hii safari yote kutuambia money is powerful. Yes, money is powerful. Money dictates a lot of things in our lives. Money gives you options. Money helps you consider either this or the other. Sometimes I like saying that when you are broke, your life is usually very linear, very straight. You don't disturb us when you're broke. Have you seen how you behave when you're broke? When you're broke, if you use matatu to go to work, you leave your house very well collected. Hausumbuani na mtu. You go to the stage where you pick your matatu from, umetulia. You get into the matatu, umetulia. You get to work. When it is lunchtime, you know how to behave. If you have a specific kibandaski you go to for lunch, you go there quietly. If you will also inama for lunch to pass, you inama and lunch passes, no problem. Wait until you have some money. You start involving us in your decisions. Unaonaje boss, sijui nichukue Uber? You've had people involve you in their decisions, isn't it? Next time, know they have something that is giving them options, right? Money is so powerful. I've heard people say many things about the power of money. I've heard people say things like pesa uvunja mlima. You've heard that. What else have you heard about the power of money? Sabuni ya roho. They've refused to tell me how much money we need for roho to be as clean as it should. Yes, what else have you heard about the power of money? Pesa otas. What else? Kifungu ya maisha. Maisha iliwacha kufunguliwa na elimu. What else? Pesa uvunja mlima. Nice. Anything else? The closest thing next to? Oh, no, next to oxygen. Yes, the closest thing next to oxygen. Yes, that has been said. Yes? Money talks. There is a story I like sharing. One day I asked the same question. I was training in a certain manufacturing company. We were in a big hall, and I asked that question. There's a guy who was seated at the far end, akainua mkono, akapelekewa microphone. Akasema, coach, if I had money, and then he went to Swahili, ningetembea aste aste, nikuje hapo mbele mahali uko, slap you very well, pay you, and you would thank me. So as they laughed the way you are laughing, I started telling myself, this guy has a point. By the way, do you know if you have money, you can slap people and they even beg you for the next appointment. Hey, boss naweza come kesho. All right? Money is powerful. We are in agreement that money is powerful. But that is not the point. Here is the point. If you agree that money is powerful, I beg you to also agree that next time you receive your money, be careful how you use it so that you can retain part of this power with you for as long as possible. Are we together? Some of us throw this power away very fast. The second reality of money, I'm happy I'm speaking to men. We are not very easily carried away by cakes. If I was in the other crowd, right now, some of them would have started ordering for cakes. Assume you have ordered for the first cake, and the delivery guy delivers the second cake. I like asking, whether it was a cake for the birthday of your son or daughter or whoever it is, how many of you would accept that delivery? You ordered for this one, the delivery guy brought this one. Would you accept? Why not? I've heard people say it is a half. You can imagine the slice that is out is not half, but we call it half. In other words, I am saying money is finite. Forget about the English. I'm simply saying money reduces as you spend it. Money reduces as you spend it. As long as you are in the business of spending on consumables, your money is coming down. However big it was, it is doing what? Coming down. That's also basic, isn't it? The reason I came up with this reality was after I observed how some of us behave when it is payday. When we have received some money, some of us grow wings. We fly so high. We want to make statements. We want to make the world understand that we are here. We have also arrived. Some of us spend money as if there is a reward for the fastest spender. Some of us spend money as if we are being paid to spend. 2-3 days down the line, tunakaa kama tumenyeshewa. Right? You and I know very well, if you had 1,000 shillings, na utoe 10 shillings, ununue airtime, the remaining amount has refused to be called 1,000. Is it still 1,000? It can't. Even if you wanted to call it 1,000. Sometimes I say, even if you remembered the mathematics you were taught by your mwalimu wa maths, of rounding off to the nearest, you try rounding off 990, ikikuwa thao tuite tuone. It has refused. So even if you tell us niko na thao, you know very well, if we put a table here and we say, watu wako na thao wapange hapa line waweke hapa, you will not come. Money reduces as you do what? You spend it. Now here is the point, if you are in agreement. If you agree that money reduces as you spend it, brothers, I beseech you to also agree that next time you receive your money, be careful how you spend it so that you spend it on things that add value to you. Are we together? If when you spend it reduces, si afadhali reduce na ikuache feeling nice about it, isn't it? Sometimes we spend money on things that we begin to regret about immediately. Have you ever spent money and you started regretting? Unza kushindwa hii kitu, was it necessary for me to buy it? Many times. And especially in the supermarket, especially after the cashier has picked your money. You know, before they pick, you're still debating within yourself. Did I really need this thing? Do I need it right now or not? And the queue is moving. Do I really need it? Okay, I need it. But the moment the cashier has picked the money, reality comes. Hey, Maze, I didn't need this thing. I didn't need this thing. But the money has already done what? Has gone. What am I saying? That before we spend, can we begin to make a culture of sitting down to determine what we want to do with our money before we get to do it? So that you don't arrest yourself with pen and paper. You're trying to figure out where your money went. Have you ever found yourself in that state? And you are not budgeting. That time you are accounting. Okay? It's not helpful. And then you scratch your head. You are remembering, nilitoa tao. Na hii tao nikanunua sijui nini 200 nikanunua hii. And then your head goes blank. You scratch your head, then you conclude. Unasema, at least si kutumia vibaya. You see how kutumia vibaya, but the money is gone. So please remember this. The last reality for today is a reality that says there is no small money. There is no small money. Of all the realities I teach, this is the only one I allow my participants to say together like choir. So are we ready? Are we ready? All right, so 3, 2, and go. Thank you for saying, even though you are doubting. I will explain. The average human being, and you guys are not average by any standard, even though sometimes we behave in a manner likely to suggest we are not average. We are serious beings. The average human being believes that their money is the smallest. That's why you will hear a lot of people in the corridors of where you work and where you do your business. You will hear many people saying things like, haka ka pesa kangu, haka ka mshahara kangu. Have you heard those things? Unajua uchumi vile iko. And sometimes when I train business people, I hear many of them say, haka ka biashara kangu. Many of us are so used to saying that without thinking about the dangers that come with that kind of vocabulary. We all agree that our tongue is very powerful. The words we speak are powerful. Do we know that? The words we speak are very powerful. Some of us are stagnated because we've spoken stagnation in our lives, knowingly or unknowingly. So you are in the habit of saying your money is small. What you're doing is that you're putting a mental lock on yourself. Remember, your mind is supposed to generate for you thoughts of progression, ideas on what you can do with your money for you to move forward. Sometimes in my imagination, I have said, in your head, there is a committee, and committee members tell themselves, jamaa tukimpea idea na alisema pesa yake ni ndogo, ni tuna waste time. Let's wait until he will say that his money can do something. By the way, as you call your money small, how much money will be enough for you? And who promised you that money? And when is it coming? Some of us even call our money small when we have not defined how much is big enough. You know, one day I said this in a training. There's a gentleman who lifted his hand, akasema, Coach, I am sure I know how much money I would need. I told him, fine. Are you kind enough to tell us? He said, yes. Jamaa akasema, mimi nikilipwa 100,000, I will never disturb anyone. I said, oh, nice. We had that board for writing, so I wrote 100K. Then I turned like this. Before I opened my mouth, he lifted his hand again. He said, sorry, I've remembered something. Would you make it 200,000? I said, no problem. It's your day. So I crossed 100 and I wrote 200,000. Then I started explaining something. He lifted his hand again. He said, sorry, class. There are some things I have not thought about, so that I take good care of things like inflation and those things. If someone just pays me $500,000, I will not disturb anyone. I told him, don't worry. So I crossed 200, I wrote $500,000. Then I started explaining again whatever it is that I was telling them. The guy again lifted his hand, said, class, forgive me for the last time. For the last time. You know, I had underestimated the number of years I want to live. I'm planning to live for very long. And so that I don't disturb people, do this, just pay me $1 million. $1 million. I told him, no problem. So I canceled the 500 and I wrote $1 million. Then when I turned, I asked him, boss, do you also realize after 1 million, we have another number called 2 millions? You should have seen the turn, the contours that formed on his face. The guy was like, by the way. And he got disturbed. Like he's now wishing we can cancel the 1 million, we write 2 million. What I'm saying is this. As long as you're competing with numbers, we know they run up to infinity, isn't it? It is common sense that your money will look small if you compare it with a brother's money of a bigger number. We all know that, right? Your money will look small if you get trapped in debt the way I was. Your money will look small. If you spend your money without a plan, it will always look small. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the paralysis that comes with demeaning our current money. There are very many people today who have folded their arms. They have said, what I'm earning is small. Let me wait. When God blesses me with enough, I will be able to do the things I need to do in my life. One of the things that breaks my heart is when I'm speaking to people nearing retirement. I get invited a lot to speak to people nearing retirement. In many of those retirement lessons, I've had people shed tears and confess, Coach, I am worried. I am retiring in the next 1 year, and I don't even have a grass-thatched house to call my own. You people have heard of such stories. People getting confused when they retire. I don't want to go into that direction. One day maybe we'll talk about retirement properly. Now, this reality of money became serious. The day I met a friend of mine, then later on I've met many similar stories, but I've shared this one also on my YouTube. Is a friend of mine who was able to build a house when he was earning a salary of 2,000 shillings. I like how your face turns again. 2,000 bob. This is not a story of the 70s. This is a story of the 2000s. My head is usually a bit mathematical. Sasa kuna stories zingine, if you give me, they sound like stories ajaba. I want to really sit down with you and just see how practical that would be. So when I met this guy and he said that, I sat down with him. I made him my friend. And the guy broke it down for me. It made sense. But I did not believe fully. So I also traveled to his village to touch the house and to have chance to also interact with the wife on how they were able to pull through. I don't share that story to ask you if you have a house. Neither do I share that story to ask you how much money you earn or how many multiples of 2,000 shillings you get. But I share that story to ask you, how many ideas are you sitting on because you're waiting for enough money? How many ideas are you sitting on because you're waiting for big money? And how much is this big money? And who promised you? And when is it coming? In other words, we are saying, gentlemen, allow your money to start doing what it can do for you the way it is today. Are we saying something? Don't be afraid of starting small. Don't be afraid. I was training business people somewhere in the directions of Kawangware. We had a summit there for business people. And I gave them an example on the ground. Apart from growing in the village, I also happened to have had serious slum influence in my upbringing because I started interacting with Kawangware when it was a bush. Okay? Now, where we were, I mentioned casually in the class, and I said, some of you are here. There is one of the biggest supermarkets in Kawangware on your way to 46. Now a few others have come. The time we were having that conversation is a supermarket that is called 46 Supermarket. Some of you might have seen it. I mentioned casually that some of you here are admiring, are aspiring that when you grow up, you'd love to have a supermarket like that one. And a few hands were already up. They said, yes, coach. Mi kwanza hiyo supermarket. Hiyo supermarket. Mi mtu akinipea hiyo niko sawa. And when I grow up, I would want to have it. And I remember telling them, do you know, some of you today have the ability to start a kiosk that would be that supermarket 10 years from today, but you can't see that supermarket in that kiosk now. So we sit waiting for some millions to drop from God knows where one day. Then I broke down the story of that supermarket for them. That what they were admiring that time was a culmination of more than 35 years of building. I happen to have known the owner of that supermarket when he had a kiosk, when I was a little boy growing up. And I have followed that story to where it is. I hope I'm saying something. Allow your money to start doing for you what it can do today instead of postponing dreams. And then later on, when retirement comes, you make a conclusion. Hizo biashara zingine si za watu wote. Yeah? Because you've waited for the capital, it has refused to come. What I've been doing, gentlemen, is to create justification as to why we need to talk about wealth creation. And I'm not talking about how to be rich. I'm talking about how to be wealthy. There is a thin line in between. I love it when I'm reminded that God gives us the power to make what? Wealth. He doesn't make it for us. He doesn't give us wealth. He gives us the power to do what? To make. As to whether we will make comes back to us. So I hope today, at the end of this, maybe we will see how we can plug into this wealth creation system. Now, when we talk about riches, sometimes you hear people say all wealthy people are rich, but not all wealthy people are rich, but not all rich people are wealthy. It's because when we talk about you being rich, we're just measuring your material possessions at a particular time without care of how the possessions came to be. Are we together? Today you might be seated here and you're broke. On your way home, you pass through somewhere and you see a suspicious bag. Some thugs stole money somewhere last evening. When they were being pursued, they decided to throw the bag so that they could save themselves. So as you move closer, you forget all the security advice, pieces of advice that we've given you. You decide to move closer, and we have told you not to move closer to suspicious things. And you open and you see money. You want to leave it, something tells you maybe God is answering my prayers, even when you never made prayers in that direction. Then you carry it home. If we measure your possessions at that time, we will call you rich, but we dare not call you wealthy. Because whatever you have at that point is not a product of a process. Are we together? Therefore, it becomes hard to study how to be rich, but it becomes easier to study how to be wealthy because wealth is a product of a process. Are we together? All right. So when we talk about wealth, and I believe that all of us aspire to be wealthy, given chance, you would want to be wealthy, isn't it? Would you want to be wealthy? Right. Now, of course, when we talk about financial wealth, because that is what has brought us here today, we're just talking about a plentiful and steady supply. Mark those words, carefully used. Plentiful and steady supply and accumulation of money, money equivalents, and other possessions. Wealth ni ile kitu ilikuwa inaitwa mali. Where you came from, there are people we used to say wako na mali. You remember those people? What were they having? In every village, there was someone who was described as having mali. That person used to have what kind of things? Ng'ombe, what else? Gari, baiskeli, what else? A big land, yes? Nyumba mzuri, na watoto. Now, all those things put together, they form the wealth of that person. Are we together? They form the wealth of that person because many of those things can be converted into money. So when we talk about wealth, we are not necessarily looking at how much cash do you have today. Sometimes you don't have cash, but you have things that can be converted into cash, isn't it? Last December, I interviewed a certain mzee in the North Rift region in his compound. And he had many trees. I had missed seeing huge trees in a compound. You remember when we were growing, we used to see very huge trees in people's compounds. Today we don't see. So this was the first home after a long period of time I was seeing trees, huge. And the guy told me, unajua kijana yangu, mimi siwezi lala njaa. Unaona hii mti moja nikiangusha chini, hii ni chakula yangu ya siku nyingi sana. And I saw the power of wealth creation. Are we together? Then my good friend Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, after agreeing that that is how we would define wealth universally, he went ahead and also defined wealth using days. And he said your wealth can also be defined as the number of days you can survive if your active income were to be taken away and you continue living at the current rate. When I read that statement, I made it my challenge. And every time I try to measure where I am, at the end of the year when I'm trying to see how I've performed, the last question I ask myself is this: if my active income is stopped, if I'm no longer able to move around training people, speaking to people, how many days can I run operating at the same rate as I operate today? Ask yourself that question. If you forget everything I'll say today, please carry home that question. Allow it to torment you. Those are your numbers, isn't it? In other words, I'm saying, if your family consumes 500 shillings per day, today, ask yourself, if my salary were to stop and I continue consuming 500 shillings per day, how many days can I run without borrowing to consume? Yes, I like how you're beginning to reflect. Please carry home that question. Are we together? Your aspiration should be that your answer to the question needs to be growing. So today, if you ask the question, maybe the answer will be one day. No problem. Begin to do some things that can make you get a bigger answer next time you ask that question. Are we together? And we want to see how the bigger answer can begin to happen. So after being tormented also with the conversation of wealth, I came up with what I call the focused wealth creation cycle to help us simplify our understanding of how wealth is created. And gentlemen, I want to quickly share this model with us. And I want you to just pay attention. For wealth to be created, your money, mark that, your money. So in other words, before we start creating wealth, the original starting point is that we must get out, find something to do for us to attract income. Are we together? For us to attract income. So if you are here and you are either employed or you are in business, you are already at the first point on the highway of wealth creation. So the choice is yours as to whether you will create or you will stay there. Are we together? Unfortunately, many of us stay there. So you start by finding something to do to attract income. Now, for wealth to be created, when that income begins to come, it needs to be allowed to continuously be flowing through three boxes, three stages. I call them boxes for purposes of simplifying, as you can see on the board. The first box is the box I call the box of money acquisition and management. That is the box where your money is received. Anyone who wakes up in the morning, goes to do something and receives some money at the end of the day, the end of the week, the end of the month, whatever period, you are in that box. Therefore, that box is the biggest in terms of size, composition. Because all of us are there. Anyone who is doing something to get some money is in that box. As to whether you will move to the other two boxes will depend on your behavior in that box. That box is the busiest box because that is where we make our daily choices. When your money has come, salary has been paid, in that box, you get busy. Have you ever seen how we are busy when it is payday? We are very busy when it is payday. We are distributing. That is the time we are deciding to buy 3 packets of unga and not 2. To pay this guy 5K and not 7. We are busy. That box is the busiest. When income comes, we are making choices. Therefore, it is in that box, if we make the wrong choices, we face the consequences. And part of the consequences is to be blocked from creating wealth. Therefore, we stay there. It is in that box where if you blunder, then you start living from hand to mouth. It is in that box where if you blunder in your choices, you find yourself borrowing for consumption. Some people are borrowing for consumption today, not because their income cannot sustain them, but because they are not deliberate with how they spend their money. That is the first box. The question in your head now is, what do I do for me to move into the next box? Right? 2 things will help you. The first thing is that you must decide that you will spend your money with a plan. We can argue about many things, but the principles of money don't change. Good people. Options can change. But fundamentals of wealth creation will not change. I was speaking to finance people during their annual professional gatherings. And I told them, it baffles me how finance people believe that a budget works for the organization they work for, but does not work for their own economy as individuals. It baffles me. Do you know how finance people tirelessly in organizations work to come up with budgets for our next financial year and defend it before the boards? And then when the year comes, they work so hard to make sure we implement according to budget. Is it in the budget? You know that language, right? Yeah, you know we are seeking this approval for this. Is it in the budget? But now follow them home. They forget that the same tool that is useful in the organization is supposed to be useful also in their private life. Brothers, make a decision that you will sit down and decide, when my money comes, this is how I want to use it. One of the things I don't teach is things like the format of a budget. Those ones you can Google them, you can get them wherever. I just want to convince your mind that you can budget. And I like saying, as long as you know how to count money, you are overqualified for budgeting. Some people believe a budget is something for accountants, for finance people. No. Anyone who knows how to count money is overqualified for budgeting. Because a budget simply is you sitting down to say, I am expecting amount X. When it comes, I want to use amount A to pay rent. I want to use this other amount to do this other thing. And that's it. Are we together? Very nice. The second thing that will help you for you to start creating wealth from that money is that you must realize that the active income you are earning today, active income is the income we are earning from our activities. If you are employed, it's the income you are earning in exchange for your time, your skills, your expertise, your sweat, your blood. For some people, we call it active income. It comes from our activities. Are we together? The income you are getting today from your active sources, that income is supposed to sustain you. But beyond sustaining you, a portion of it is supposed to be put aside to become seed for future multiplication. Are we together? Wealth creation is a semblance of the use of seeds. You plant, when it grows, it gives you more. Are we together? And you make it a continuous process. So you must deliberately choose to retain some seed. Those of you that came from the village like myself, we will recall what used to happen when our parents would harvest. Let's say they have harvested maize. Before we would start eating this harvest, they would first carefully select the ones they want for the next planting season. Keep it securely somewhere. Then the next season coming, they will pick it and plant it. That is the logic of wealth creation. So, when you earn your money, you make it a personal choice that you will not be eating everything that comes. Are we together? You will be retaining something. That takes us to the second box. I call it the box of money retention. The box of money retention. You choose that I'm not going to live in this one box. I will retain something. How do we retain money? We retain money through saving. We retain money through saving. So we can argue about a lot of things, but the power of saving cannot be downplayed. It is you choosing to retain money with you, not eating everything. After I created this model, I came across the famous classic book, The Richest Man in Babylon. And they have a chapter on wealth creation, principles of wealth creation. And principle number 1 says, a part of all I earn is mine to keep. By the way, as early as now, allow me to remind you that we don't save because we have excess. If you are waiting for excess for you to save, you will wait. Are we together? It is a choice you make, sometimes a sacrificial choice, to retain something. Now, let's assume you have started saving some money. I will follow you into that box and disturb you again and remind you that no one ever became wealthy just because they were saving. It's a statement that brings me a lot of trouble. Sometimes before people listen from where I started, if they hear that line, they beat me seriously online. And then I tell them, can you listen from the top? Okay? And they say, Pole. No one ever became wealthy through saving only. Saving is simply putting money aside, isn't it? Hey, just putting money aside. You're not creating anything. You're not adding value in your financial ecosystem. You're just putting money aside. If your income is 20,000 and you're saving 2,000 per month, at the end of the year, you have saved 24,000 shillings. Because saving simply piles money on top of the other. If your balance today is 6,000, if you're saving 2,000, when you save end of this month, it gets to 8. If you don't save, it remains 6. So, if you're earning 20,000, at the end of the year, they have paid you 240,000, right? In total, 240,000. If you are saving 2K, if we are to do accounting and just check whether you have added any value, we will add whatever you've been spending, and we will get that what you have spent plus what you have at hand, the 24,000, adds up to 240. So the entire year, you've not added a single thing in the system. So are you creating wealth? You're not. Because your life financially is static. You received 240, that is the only thing you can account for. We need to be asking you, boss, why are we getting 257? Hii 17,000 imetoka wapi? Then that means something is growing from the seeds you've kept. So we are saying no money needs to be sitting idle. As you save money, be careful enough not to be sitting on money and just feeling nice about it. There is nothing interesting. You know, when I was in the bank, I observed a trait in some people. There are some people who would come to the bank every single day, not to transact, but to ask for balance. All right? You can see those people. So every morning they walk into the bank, niangalilie balance. Sometimes you get to know them. Ukiingia asubuhi, ukilog in, unawaangalilia, unaandika kwa karatasi. Wakikuja, unawapea tu, so that the queue can move faster. But later on, when I look back, I see someone who is comfortable confirming that the money he had is still there. And some people keep money lying idle in accounts for far too long. You're not creating wealth. That money needs to be doing something. We said it is seed, isn't it? Seeds need to go and be planted. That takes us to the third box. I call it the box of money multiplication. You retained seeds, you remember to plant. I like saying, a farmer who retained seeds and forgot to plant is as good as a farmer who never had seeds. So don't just save. Allow the money you are saving to go and call for more money. Now, we send money to go and call for more money through the process we call investment. You've heard people talk about investment, isn't it? And one of the things that society has complicated for us is this thing called investment. When we were growing up, society made it look like investment is something that is only reserved for people who have a lot of money. You would watch news and you would see them saying the investors are coming, they are groundbreaking next week, and we can see caterpillars and those things. What it was doing to your head is telling you that unless you are able to afford these caterpillars and groundbreak, you are not an investor, you can't invest. So we sat down and we resigned and said, vitu zingine si za kila mtu, si ndio? That one is for investors. Good people, investment is simply the use of money to create more money. Umesikia nikiweka building hapo? Have you heard me put a building there? No. I said it's the use of money to create more money. Now, how you will use it to create more money is what will differ from what another person will do to create more money. When you invest, there is something you are expecting. How do we call it? Returns. Yes, thank you. Returns. You cannot call yourself an investor if there is nothing coming out of your planting season, isn't it? So we will expect returns. Those returns go to pour into the first box. Remember we said the first box receives, isn't it? So initially it was receiving income called salary for someone who is employed. But now that you have done something, it will receive returns that are wearing a t-shirt labeled a name that depends on where you invested your money. There is someone who will get returns that are called interest because they used the money they had saved and put it in a place that earns what? Interest. Are we making some sense? There is another person who will get returns that are called dividends. They used their money, put it in a place that would return dividends. There is still another person who will put their money in another place that will give them returns that are called rental income or rent. That is also where society gave us another lie. Very many of us believe that rent comes from rental houses. True or false? Rent comes from rental houses. Allow me to demolish that a bit. Rental income is income that all of us can get. You see, when we were told to attach rental income to buildings, we relaxed. If I don't have capital to put up houses, I can't get rental income, isn't it? So we relaxed. We closed that chapter. We said we can't get rental income. We can all get rental income this way. Rental income is the income that you get for allowing another person to use your asset and pay you periodically for using their asset. Have you heard me put a building there? Now it is up to you to define this asset for yourself. What is it that you will own that another person can pay you for using? What they are paying you we call it rental income. Are we making sense? For another person, therefore, it will be the rental houses. For another person, it will be a car. There are people who buy cars and give it to organizations that need cars, and they are paid rental income on their cars. Are we together? For someone else, it is the plastic chairs that we sit on in the village functions or even here in town. Those of you that have attended those functions, we sit on chairs that we have hired, isn't it? You guys don't sit on hired chairs? You do, isn't it? In those functions. What we have paid the owner of the chairs is rent on their chairs. They retain ownership of the chairs. You can rent your phone. Yes. It is up to you to define what it is you will rent. I hope you're beginning to move your head to see where you can plug into this conversation. I have taken this message to the interiors of Maasai land, and I remember that day I told them, to someone else, rental income can come from a bull. And they resonated so much with that example. At the end of the session, there are men who came and told me, you have opened my eyes. I never thought that these bulls can give me income, but they were agreeing. The neighbors that don't have bulls, during fertilization, they look for bulls. They pay people to utilize their bulls. That is rental income on the bull. Thank you. We are hoping that men will not rent themselves. That's a good one. All right? But brothers, I'm just simplifying these things for us to see that each one of us can plug into this thing somewhere. My prayer is that at the end of this, you see where you can plug in. Are we together? Then that will make sense. I gave you 2 tips in the first box. The box of money acquisition and management. Allow me to give you a few tips on the second box, and these are the tips on saving. Please remember this, that money speaks that one language. If you save me today, I will save you tomorrow. Right? Then, if you want to go far with savings, please define why you want to save. In life, when you do something with a defined purpose, when you do something knowing what you want to achieve, why you are doing it, then you stand better chances of achieving that thing than someone doing it blindly. So get to define why you want to save. Different people save for different reasons. Others save for a rainy day. Others particularly save to invest. Others save to buy big-ticket items. Big-ticket items are items that have a price that can demolish your entire salary. Or if you are to use your salary on them, you will be stranded. We are talking about things like television sets, refrigerators, those things. Your salary can buy once, but it will leave you stranded. So we call them big-ticket items. When World Cup is coming, that's when men discover that their TV is small. I don't know why. You have a TV that just looks fine today. But when World Cup is coming, when next is it coming? Yeah. There'll be trouble. Now let's remember the previous one that came in November. So we have 2 men here. These 2 men, the year has started. It's January. They have discovered World Cup is coming. Aka ka TV kangu kamekuwa ka dot. And you see, you want to see Messi akiwa mzima mzima. At least Messi wa adabu. Okay? Hata kama si mzima, Messi wa adabu. Si ndio? So we have 2 men. World Cup is coming in November. They want to upgrade their TV sets. They can choose to do different things. One man can decide, the TV I want to buy is this size of TV. It costs this much. They estimate the price, and they begin to put money aside every month. They divide by 10. By the end of October, they have the money to buy the TV set. There's another man who says, hey, I can't wait for November to watch my big screen. Sinianze tu kuwatch sahi. So what do? Do they have money to buy the screen now? They don't. So that's how they find themselves borrowing. They had a TV functioning, but they can't sustain, they can't hold the urge till they put aside money. So they borrow money to buy the TV in January. So come November, both these men will have big screens. Sawa? But one of them has gotten their big screen at no extra cost. But the other one has paid heavily to acquire the big screen. In fact, hata hii ya huyu jamaa mwingine ni mpya sana kuliko ya huyo jamaa mwingine. The choices we make in life, no problem. They are our choices. Please remember, if you choose to save, save before you spend. Because money refuses to remain to be saved after spending. Don't be like me. When I was working, I lied to myself. I told myself, I will be using my money very well. Ile yote itakuwa inabaki when the salary is coming, I'll be saving it. I'm still waiting till tomorrow. And I left the job. Please start now if you haven't started what we have said. If you have already started, continue. Right? Then please be consistent. Be consistent. Be consistent. Be consistent. And then you must be disciplined. You must be disciplined. In the world of wealth creation, we cannot fail to mention discipline. You must be disciplined. You must learn as a man to say no where no is due. Don't be a yes man always. You can't say yes to everything. Ile unaona hauwezi. Just learn to say no. And be peaceful while at it. Don't bother explaining to us a lot. You know, the reason why I am saying this is because unajua. The reason why I have not driven today, you know, my back has been aching. I'm trying to keep fit. You know it is fuel you don't have. But you are bothering yourself explaining. Don't. Just make your choices. Are we together? And run with them. We have our own problems. We don't even have time to care about yours. Let's be careful. A few tips about the last box. By the way, that model I showed you will not always be as easy as I mentioned. There are times you will burn your fingers as you try to create wealth, especially in box number 3. When you're trying to plant your seeds, in that box is where we find scammers. You know those guys who promise to triple your money in 2 months? You know them, eh? Those guys are camping in box 3 because they know we have a weakness of wanting shortcuts. So they will come. They will use all manner of words to convince you. They will even show you evidence. And I like saying, those schemes are working. But they are always working. You see those scams? They are working. But they are working as long as it's not your money that is in them. As long as your money is not there, they are working. When guys are showing you evidence on social media, M-Pesa messages, look, I put in this is what I've gotten, they are working. But the day you who is listening to me, the day you put your money in them, some of you know, that's when they do what? They crash. Okay? I was speaking in an India party for a certain company, a company full of young people. And that statement was my closing remark. And I left. When I left, there's a young man in that group who told his friends, huyu jamaa wisdom yake ni old school. He does not know how the world has changed. Okay? Well, he confessed later. So when I was speaking to them, there were 2 scams that were ruling the airwaves in this country. 2 scams. You know those shortcut things. Okay? And I was particularly clear when I was saying that statement. And I left. So the guy told his friends that this guy does not know what he's saying. He doesn't know the world is changing quickly. So the next Monday, I spoke to them over the weekend. The next Monday, he opened his savings account. He pumped into one of those scams. He went to his bank. He borrowed all he could get. He pumped into that scam. Then he went to the circle. He borrowed all he could get and pumped into the scam. That is December. I spoke to them first week of December. That's when many companies are doing their end year things. End of January, that particular scam collapsed. Beginning of February, my people tell me we have a booking for a one-on-one session. You're supposed to meet this client somewhere. They say, okay. So I go where we're supposed to meet. That is when I'm doing one-on-one coaching. So the guy comes. The guy says, Coach, I know you will not remember me. Maybe you've not even seen me before, but I have two things I've come to do. I've come to cry and to confess. So I get worried. So which one do we start with? Tulia kwanza ama to confess kwanza? I said to confess kwanza. Kulia naweza kukuacha ukilia mimi nikienda. So the guy told me, you spoke to us last year, and your closing remarks were that those scams are working as long as it's not our money that is in them. The day we put our money there, that's when they fail. Then I told my friends how your wisdom is old school, and this is what I decided to do. So now let me cry. I'm crying because the scam died a couple of weeks ago. All my money, and we're talking about millions now, went with the scam. So the guy is in debt as we speak. Amewachwa na madeni because he was trying to circumvent the process and get rich quick. He was estimating in 2 months, 3 months, the third month, that millions would have tripled. According to the M-Pesa messages he was being shown. Be careful, good people. Now, if you choose to invest, please know your financial goals before you choose to invest. What is it that you want to achieve? Let us not just jump into those options just because you hear it's good to invest. What do you want to seek out of an investment? What do you want to get? Which investment would speak for you to say, this one was good for me? I like saying every investment option is good, but not good for everyone every time. What is good for you today maybe will be good for me 10 years from now. So let's not be copy-pasting financial situations. These are personal conversations. Are we together? Don't just do it because everyone in the office is doing it. Get to know why you want to invest. If there's a question I don't like jumping into answering, and I get that question quite a lot in the inbox, it's a question that asks, Coach, I have 100,000. Where should I invest? And sometimes if it is asked publicly, I see people jumping there. Buy a piece of land, I don't know where. Buy what, do this. And I'm wondering, who are you advising? So I usually follow up with another question. Why do you want to invest? You see, there's another person who wants to invest because they feel their current income is under pressure. They would want to put their money somewhere where they can be getting periodic returns to supplement their current income. And then I tell you to buy a piece of land somewhere. Am I answering to your need? I'm not. Musikimbiange kujibu watu hizo vitu. You don't know why they want. So assume I also jump in and tell you, nunua shamba. And then when you are running broke, you are regretting and saying, that guy misled me. Get to know your risk appetite. We are not the same. Consider the risks that are related because it's a risky affair. You also need to understand your investment option. Someone is promising to triple your money. And wewe unamfuata tu. You need to be asking yourself, what is it that they do with our money after we have given them? That brings so much returns that they can give us these abnormally looking returns. And they also retain their profit. If it doesn't make sense, shake a break. At least the money is still in your pocket. Are we together? Okay? Consider the liquidity of where you want to invest, depending on the kind of money you want to invest. Someone has money for school fees that will be needed in the next 3 months. And because we have said it is good not to sit on money idling, you use that money to buy a piece of land. When schools will open, you can't sell land the way you sell mangoes, isn't it? So you did not consider the liquidity. How easy is it to convert the investment into cash? Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry. Don't be in a hurry. Sometimes as men, we suffer from wanting to be in a hurry. One of the differences between women and men as far as money is concerned is our orientation. Men are largely bottom line oriented. Men want to know what is the bottom line. Someone is coming here to talk to you about investment options, and they are beating about the bush. They are telling you stories. A man is asking, tell me, if I gave you 100,000, how much will it be after this period? Ama tufikiriangi hivyo? You know, we are not very much into the stories, isn't it? But now our female counterparts, them, they want the stories. In fact, they are very suspicious of someone who just walks and tells you, if you give us 100,000, we'll give you 10,000 at the end of a month. They want to sit down, pull a stool and ask, so how does it happen? Are we together? Now, our bottom line orientation sometimes makes us to burn our fingers. Because sometimes when the guys who sell scams come to us, they know that if you want to catch a man, tell them what the returns look like. And if this guy gives you 100,000, it will be 300,000 in 45 days. The man will listen to you. Don't be in a hurry. Are we together? Don't be in a hurry to commit to an investment. Before we take our break, I'll give you a story of what happened to some men like you. Of what happened to some men like you. There are men who came together to form an investment group, to eat a chama, and they were collecting money every other time. They've collected a lot of money over years. Now they want to invest. So they decide they will invest in real estate, specifically hostels. It looks like a good thing, isn't it? So then we need to look for a place that has an education institution where we can put our hostels to tap into the market, right? So they start looking for land. One day an advert comes in the radio. You know how we advertise land in the radio? Some people can market land mpaka uamuke uone umechelewa kununua shamba. Yes? So land was marketed. And at the end of the advert, they said 80% sold. 80% sold. This is how it was decorated. They said where that piece of land is next to a bypass that connects to the Lapset project. You know, they know we hear news half-heartedly. We like gossip, but we don't have the strength to follow serious things. So they know the average man has heard about Lapset, but we don't care to know where Lapset runs from and where it goes. So if we added Lapset in the mix, men are into this. So they said there will be a bypass that connects to Lapset. Then they said there's a university that is groundbreaking in the next 2 weeks in that place. Then there will be a hospital and several other things. 80% sold. My friends wakagather wakaambiana, hey guys, kwa WhatsApp group yao sasa. Now, did you hear this? Wakatafuta link, wakatupa hapo, wakaangalia, hey guys, we should not miss this. Then the following Saturday, kukapangwa, how do you call that thing? Site visit. You guys know these things. So site visit ikapangwa vizuri, beautiful bus, ikaletwa, ikasimama pale nje ya Kencom. I don't know why we pick people from there. Jamaa zetu wakafika asubuhi, very nice, fry. In fact, when they got into the bus, people were already in the bus. When they entered, they were like, phew, hey, we almost missed. Then they started the journey. They went again. They went further. They're still going. Okay? They went some more, and then they got to where they were going. Out of this world. Wakashuka kwa bus. Sasa si ni kuonyeshwa zile vitu zilikuwa kwa advert, si ndio? So now ni kupenduliwa. Hey, this side. You see that tree? That, wacha hii ingine, ile, bus. Sasa hapo ndio university inakuja ku ground break. So next 2 weeks, work will be going on. Haya, tupenduke hii side kila mtu. That side pale, that's where the hospital is coming to be. Guys are getting stimulated. Then now the bypass connects like this to the lap set. The guy who is pointing lap set is not even pointing. He does not finish pointing. He's just saying lap set. Okay? By the time they are shown all these things, guys are now energized. Conversations are beginning. Kumbe some people have already deposited some money. Wamekuja hata na slips. They're saying, as we passed through the office, we were given your account number, we have paid something. Can we start picking our plots? Yes. Other people are asking, can you accept checks? I say, yes, we can accept, but we will confirm after they get value. Okay, nice. Our friends wakajiita kando, wakaulizana, boss, kama tulikuja ikiwa 80% sold. Sasa unaona ni kama tuko 96%. Tusipochunga, we are going to miss out on this thing. Then they had a sharp treasurer, alikuwa amebeba checkbook. They celebrated that guy. So, wakauliza, can we also start picking ours? Yes. Sasa unajua kama ni 80% sold, na wana target university. So you move, lakini umeogopa, because lazima za kwanza zimechukuliwa, si ndio? So the guys are moving, okay, what about this corridor? Wanaambiwa, this corridor you have 1, 2, 3 plots remaining. Okay, let's take a step of faith. They move to the next corridor. What about this one? Mpaka wakafika sasa wakaambiwa hizo zingine zimechukuliwa zote. So they wrote their check, wakasign, wakapeana. Then wakapelekwa nyama choma, wakarudishwa Nairobi. Fast forward. This is where I came into the story. I came into the story at the point where they were feeling cheated. They were lucky that the land was genuine. They got the title. But they felt cheated because several years down the line, not even a kindergarten has come. Forget the university. Not even a kindergarten. Now, the title they have, they cannot even borrow money from a financial institution against it. You know, the banks will want to give margins based on where the land is. If you're closer to prime areas, we can give you closer to 100%. Then as we move further, until we get to a zone we call remote. Sasa ukikuja na remote, unaambiwa hii ni remote. Sasa wako na hiyo ya remote. They've been working from bank to bank, trying to see if they could secure some money. Wanaambiwa hiyo ni ya remote. Don't be in a hurry, good people. Are we together? Then remember those things I've mentioned about in discipline. Procrastination will stop you from creating wealth as a man. You keep saying, I'll start next year. You will live here saying, hey, hizo story huyo jamaa amesema zina make sense. Hey, acha nijipange. Next year, I'll start. Then next year I meet you, bado uko tu hapo. Comparison and competition. This one is critical for men. Let us be careful. Please, as far as wealth creation is concerned, remember to be your own man. These things of wanting to do things like your peers, bowing down, and I liked what you people said in the beginning. The day you bowed to pressure, that is the day things went wrong in your life. Just because your brother came here driving a car that you admire doesn't mean tomorrow you queue in the bank trying to see if you can borrow for it. You'll burn your fingers. Be true to yourself. Are we together? When you get to the time for you to drive, buy a car you can handle. Right? Be true to yourself. Competition is a spirit that is eating men. We have something in us that makes a man want to be on top of everyone else. It's a silent thing in us. So you are in a place where there's a brother who has come with the latest phone. Something in you tells you, pana, Monday hata we utati. So you download an app you never thought about. You borrow money so that Monday pia we ukuje na simu. Utuonyeshe. Some of us have bought cars for shows. Then you realize people are not even recognizing. Have you ever gone to an office, someone is speaking issue with you? Boss, yani nilikuflashia mataa hata uwezi jibu. Boss, kwani we are busy. We don't have time to remember the registration number of your card. And every light that is coming, I remember ini and ani. You know you bought the car for yourself, not for us. Are we together? The company where you work has called people for an outside event. You deliberately arrive late. Na umeweka zile sauti zinatoa moto ya blue. Eh? You know them, eh? Oh, I didn't want to mention brands, but thank you. So you deliberately arrive late, the meeting has started, and you make sure you rev, alafu ndo iwachilie, tua. Alafu unapack, una expect ukifika utaselebretiwa, unafika unaulizwa, why are you late? You feel frustrated. Please don't buy things for people. Are we together? Do it for yourself. Shortcuts, I've talked about them. Then the trap of debt. The trap of debt will kill you as a man. I think after the break, I will say a few things about debt. Niharibu hii mood, alafu niende home. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Roy. I think before you spoil the mood, we take the break. It's a very short break. I should take nothing less or more than 10 minutes. Then we'll be back. Is Elder Wambia here? Oh, Sheikh is here. Okay. I was standing in for him, now he's here. So Elder Wambia will whip us to a 10 minutes break. Then when we come back, we'll give him 15 minutes to talk about the trap of debt. Then we go to the next program. There is some refreshments as you walk out. So kindly let's take a very quick 10 minutes break as we reflect on this presentation. Thank you so much, and let's stand up and pray for the drink. As we do, if you came through any other door that is not this door, please register with our brother Muturi at the door, and I will wish that the host can offer the prayer for the drink.
There is enough fresh juice for all of us. It doesn't have any health issues. It's done fresh, no